For those that are just joining us, we're at Memphis Motor Works in Memphis, Tennessee. PCA Mid-South Club Tech Day. Well, I got something cool bringing you guys today. This was my ride this morning. Super cool, 928. Back in the day, this car was over 100 grand new. You can pick them up pretty cheap now. I put it right up in there with American Muscle as far as riding. Then we got a PCA Mid-South event going on today. It's gonna be fun. Mr. Raymond and his super cool street ride. Nothing but cool cars today.
I've got tape. See if I want to see. That's a plane. Okay, usually. Yeah, somebody. Yeah.
Just address that for the old cars.
It's a good question. Technically, you can.
Motor Works. I started Memphis Motor Works in '85 with my deceased partner, David LaBriere. You may see a little picture of him in the front. I've got this car here is kind of the beginning of all of it, was the 356, and I'm not sure how many of you all know the history of Porsche, but these cars were based on Volkswagen's design. And Dr. Porsche, after the war, he had to do a little stint in prison. The French were kind of mad about things, and he came out and he went back to his hometown in Austria. It was a place called Gemund, and they started building these cars, handmade. They would pound the bodies out of aluminum, and those were called Gemund coupes. And they used Volkswagen running gear in them to make it all work. And then as time went on, they developed their own specialty design. It's very similar to a Volkswagen Bug. There's hardly any two parts that will interchange between a Bug engine and an actual Porsche engine. But it still had the same layout, same configuration. I want to thank Mike and for bringing his. Mike, where are you?
Right here.
Yeah. I want to thank him for bringing his. This little car, you can fill in the blank. It was a Southern California car.
Yep.
And for many, many years, and it's a fantastic example of a 61.
60.
Is it 60?
60.
Okay. Porsche's formula back in the day was less was more. So that's what they did, is they concentrated on building their cars very light, and they had moderate power, where a lot of the, of course, big domestic cars and Jaguars tend to go for much heavier, larger, more powerful engines in their cars. Porsche always went for lightweight. And they muddled along through the 50s, and they built their first car, and it was called the 550 Spider, and everybody knows that's one James Dean got killed in, right? And that was their first sports racer, pure race car they built. And it was super lightweight, and it was incredibly effective in endurance racing. And they started winning overall, and that really put them on the map. Then their sales of the regular road-going cars really picked up in the mid-50s. That's really what made them the 550 Spider, in my opinion. You know, other historians may differ with me, but and this is a good example here, it's got rear engine. It's a flat engine, so it's mounted very low in the car for super low center of gravity. It's very simple. Since it's air cooled, essentially, it's very lightweight. It doesn't have radiators and all that, so it had a really good power to weight ratio. And these cars could be driven 10/10 easily and comfortably. Well, it does, but it's actually integral into the engine. So the fan that blows on the top side blows through the oil cooler. The 911s, on the other hand, they had a more remote oil cooler, and I'm sure a lot of the racing versions had their own remote oil coolers. Anybody got any questions on these?
So you said it's 4 or 6?
It's 4, yeah. It's very largely based on the Volkswagen engine design, but they changed the design in the early 50s and came up with their own design. And I forget, it's type 616 or something like that. Somebody can correct me at any point. Let me see how many people we can get in. I bought this car from John Hudson. John was one of our past presidents here. And a little history about the Porsche Club. It used to, if you were going to join the Porsche Club, you had to have an active member sign your membership application. Anybody remember that? So we drove all the way to Nashville because there wasn't a Porsche Club in Memphis in the early 80s. And John Hudson was the president there, and he signed mine and Peter Golden's PCA application, so that's how I became. Anyway, I ended up buying this car for John. He'd had it in Nashville, and it had been in a crash, and he never fixed it, and it sat dormant in his garage for years and years and years. And I bought it kind of with the intention of maybe doing a PCA race car with it, but I ended up building it into a street car with some performance tweaks on it. I turbocharged it, which this car is not authentic by any means. It's not original. It's highly modified, and it's a plaything for me. So right now, these early cars prior to 1976 were all made out of just unprotected mild steel body panels. In 76, Porsche went to a galvanized steel program, so all the bodies subsequent to 1976 are galvanized. And they actually, and I don't know if this is true, if anybody's been over to the factory lately, they had a Targa shell part bare that was all galvanized in front of the factory, unpainted, that they were demonstrating the corrosion protection qualities of their galvanized steel program. This car didn't benefit from that. And the rear windshield, you know, if anybody's had an old 911, you know the water pockets right here in the corners, it's really bad. They're really bad about that. And they had some sound insulating foam laying on top of the little cover that went here, and it held the moisture on there until it ate holes in the firewall. And John, when I bought the car, he warned me. He said, "Man, it's got a little rust up here." Well, it had one of those engine sound mats in it, and one day it was kind of hanging down, and I pulled it off and only found these gaping holes. Well, and it looked like literally like a piece of Swiss cheese. So we had to stop, had to pull the engine out of it. Tim's here somewhere. Tim used to do a lot of body work. We drilled all the spot welds out of it. Of course, all the panels are available. All you have to do is put them in, right? Send them to the body shop. So I'm kind of in the middle of this. I sent it over to Jerry Palmer. I'm surprised Jerry's not here today. And Jerry did all the sprayed all the body chutes in it and finished it all out for me, repainted all around here. He does fabulous work on these cars.
What size motor are you using?
This is a stock 2.4 liter engine. This started out its life as a 73.5 911T that had the new fuel injection at the time, which was called CIS fuel injection on it. They sold a lot of these cars, and of course all those components are long gone. What I've put in here on top of it is a turbo 911 turbo original manifold and everything off of a 3.3 liter turbo on the smaller engine. And Pat Williams did all the tuning on it. And the 2.4 engine, stock compression ratio, stock cams was rated at 140 horsepower. With the 3.3 turbo system on it, and 1 bar boost was what, 14.7 psi boost, made 315 at the wheels.
Wow.
So it's, and if you do the math, it come up basically at the same power to weight ratio, as a new turbo did, like a 2012 or 13. So it's a quick little car. It's a blast to drive. It weighs around 22 to 2,300 pounds. So it's a lively little car to drive. Cases and stuff we can all go look at after a while. The engine's only about this tall. Devin has got his cases out outside his silver car up there. Tom, where are you? Tell us about your car. I brought this to Christine.
So this is a California. 64. It's got a history story. Mom was out in California in the 60s or early 70s. Got stolen.
So this was the end of the line for all your original 911 body series, right? This car is, I think, 150th from the end of the line of the last ones made. It was replaced by the Carrera, not what they call the 964 series car. Still air cooled, still rear engine, but they changed everything up in the driveline. This is really the last of the original series car. This is a silver anniversary edition. You can always tell they matched the color of the wheel centers to the body color. There's several others that had a really nice different console layout in it. So no,
Well,
no,
it's straight out of zero, high pressure pistons and other than
to them, this car was going to be their ultimate car, and granted, it's a fantastic performing car. Anybody that's ever driven one knows they're pretty fast. But it's definitely a departure of where they had been with the rear engine. You know, the purists will always tell you the engine belongs behind the driver. Okay. This, of course, has the front V8 engine, but they did something very unique. They put a rear transaxle in it. So the transmission and rear differential are combined in one unit, and it's in the rear of the car. And they did that for weight distribution, right? To offset that nosedive that most cars have. So again, these cars drive fantastic. I've had a couple of these 944s. It was their entry-level car. Again, a brilliant design. Just like the 928, the transmission and rear differential are in the back. And I can tell you, having raced one of these in PCA racing, and Monty can attest to this, every wheel on this car weighs exactly the same. They achieve perfect weight distribution. So each wheel is 25, 25, 25, 25%. So the engineers did a fantastic job of coming up with perfect weight distribution. Also, these cars were, Porsche and everybody else had came up with modular engine design, you know, where you share components between the two. This is a V8, this is a 4-cylinder. It's really half of the 928 engine. So it shares a lot of the same components and technology in the 944. One of my personal favorites is when they turbocharged the 944. Fantastic. There's several of those here. Fantastic running cars. They really pushed the performance envelope up to 911 air-cooled levels, you know. But they were really fantastic cars. Liquid cooled, They all came with catalytic converters, so they were, you know, meeting more stringent emissions and stuff. They still kept the rear engine design. And the very first cars were 996s. And the companion car, which we don't have one here, and they sold zillions of them, was the Boxster, which was a mid-engine car. Very similar. I've got a display. The main thing with these cars was the early failures of the engines.
This is relatively new to me. I got it in December. It was kind of like my bucket list 911. So I had the .2 GT3 of this before, but the non-RS. Hunted this for about a year. Didn't really think I was going to be able to get it, and somebody made me an offer on my prior one that allowed me to at least get a foot in the door for it. And I found it in Portland, Oregon. It's a 2007 GT3 RS. So this is the first GT3 RS that they brought to America. The prior one, the 996 GT3 RS, was only a Euro car or a rest of world car, right? So this and the green car that you might have seen were the two launch colors for this. So this is just called RS Orange, and the other one's called RS Green. Last of the manual GT3s, last of the Mesger motors.
Like, what's it rated at?
This one's 410.
Well, what an awesome day. From the food to the friends, to the cars, to the knowledge. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too boring for you non-Porsche guys, but there's a lot of cool information right there that was spread today amongst all these guys that have been living the Porsche life for so long. I'd like to thank PCA for inviting me out, part of the club, and for Mike opening his shop and letting us see all the cool stuff. Sure enjoyed everything that we got to do today, and I learned so much. Had a great ride out to the event with my buddy Monty and that cool 928 that we got to ride in. So stick around to the end. There's some pretty cool cars leaving the event that I'd like for you to see. Check out the machine shop portion of the video towards the end where they build all the new engines for these Porsches. Lots of neat stuff going on in one little building, I tell you. A lot of knowledge. Beautiful cars, beautiful day. Just can't wait to get my junk on the road.
It's a double roller. It's a double roller. It would utilize that bearing and get rid of that smaller bearing that's in it. The new ones, they got rid of them intermediates altogether, and they do the reduction with a big long chain.
Could you explain what the intermediate shaft does?
This turns in half crankshaft speed, 2-to-1. This is what drives your valve train.
So there is no valve chain or belt in that engine?
Yeah, it's got a chain.
Now, if you guys remember me taking my motor apart at Monty's shop, this is where I brought the heads to, and they were on a cart just like this, just like those heads. These guys did all the machine work and stuff in the same tools and equipment, just like these heads right here. I want to thank them for doing that for me and letting them show me exactly how they did it. Now, before we leave, we've got to take those studs out of this case right here, but we're heating up that oven behind us to break the Loctite that's holding those studs in. So as always, continue to watch the rest of the video, check out the end, and as always, get out in the garage and go build something. See you guys on the next episode.